Glad to be with you. I want to talk about free motion quilting. You know, that's my passion. That's what I love to talk about. Let's talk about free motion quilting and having a free motion quilting playground. It's called Quilter's Canvas. Yes, Quilter's Canvas. Let's talk about machine setup first. The quilt below is the Quilter's Canvas quilt. It's called Barrier of Hatteras. Hey, how are you? So glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. In case you didn't know, I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. I love to help quilters go from frustration to fabulous by helping them learn two techniques, free motion quilting and ruler quilting, so that you can creatively finish your own projects. But before we can even do that, we need to know what to set up our machines for free motion quilting. How many of you, raise your hand, have struggled to set up your machine for free motion quilting? I know that I did. When I first started, I had a hard time. I didn't know anything about needles. I didn't know anything about thread and how those two work together. I did not know about tension. I knew a little bit, but I was afraid of it. Raise your hands. Yes, afraid to try. I was afraid to try. And I know a lot of quilters are afraid to try. So that's what I want to help quilters with. I don't want you to be afraid. I don't want you to be frustrated. I want you to be fabulous. Hello and welcome. So glad that you're here. When you see me turning my head, it's to look at the computer, the other screen, to see who's coming online. Okay, so Quilter's Canvas. This quilt happened as a result of me wanting to improve my free motion quilting. So we talked about machines, right? Setting up our machine. That was my first hurdle. The next hurdle is, how do you come up with designs? Now that I have it set up for free motion, who else also did a meander or stippling design when you first learned free motion quilting? Me. I did it for 2 years. That's all I did was stipple, 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 meander, meander, meander. And guess what? I'm so glad I did, because it did two things. One, it boosted my confidence. It boosted my confidence. By this time, I really was comfortable with my machine. Still do. Still do. Okay. But I am glad that you are, because it's going to build your confidence. Because not only do we have to learn free motion quilting and how to set up our machine for free motion success, we have to learn how to manage our quilt. So stippling, just choosing one design and stitching that over and over again, builds our confidence. We get more comfortable with managing a quilt on whatever machine we're quilting on, whether it's a sit down long arm, a frame, or even a home machine, which most of us start on. And then we begin to add little things step by step, right? And I started out with a machine that did not have stitch regulation. I still have that machine. And I have another machine. Both of those home machines do not have stitch regulation. So by doing a meander over and over, I got to improve my stitch quality and my stitch length, because I was doing the same thing over and over, over and over. It's really a good teacher. So now that I say that, after 2 years of doing nothing but meander, I started to add meander with flowers, meander with leaves, meander with all kinds of things. Swirls, meander with this, meander with that. And so that was my next step in my journey. But I wanted to learn more. You know those stencils that we see at quilt shops where you can use the pounce pad, and we can use chalk in the pounce pad to transfer a stencil to the fabric? I could not follow those lines. I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to learn how to follow those lines so I can quilt those beautiful designs? So I figured out something that I call the alphabet drills. And this quilt was quilted with designs all based on the alphabet. I already know how to write in cursive, block letters. So my hand memory for those character shapes was already there. So what if I started to combine those designs or change? I call them designs because the alphabet is really designs, right? Think about it. Think about those who do calligraphy. If you see calligraphers, hey, yes, same here. Exactly. I totally agree. All of that is beautiful. Calligraphy, you see the swirls and different things they do in calligraphy. Why can't we do that in free motion quilting? So I developed something called the alphabet drills. And from the drills, I use box letters, cursive letters, lowercase letters, uppercase letters to create new designs and combine them. Now, the trick is to be able to, whoops, what is that? Little gnat. Little gnat. The trick is to be able to stitch a continuous design with the shape and of the letter. That's the trick. And so I created something called the alphabet stitching path. So you learn the stitching path, which is a continuous path of stitching. And then we can create designs for all kinds of things, blocks and borders, edge to edge. So, oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you like it. I want to show you some of the designs inside this quilt. But before I do, well, how about I ask you, do you want to see some variations of this quilt? It's a block that I designed called Quilter's Canvas. And when you use different fabric colors and placement, you get a completely different look. And the reason why I called the block Quilter's Canvas, because it creates big blocks of area to use for free motion quilting practice. It's a free motion canvas. So that's why I called it Quilter's Canvas. Do you want to see that, or do you want to see some of the free motion quilting designs I'm talking about that are based on the alphabet? I have both for you, but what do you want to see first? Ah, Cindy loves to learn anything new. Yes, awesome. I like to hear that. New stuff. So I have my quilt samples here, and I have both alphabet. So we get two boats. One says both, and the other says the alphabet. Okay. Both, another. Okay, but which one? I'm going to show you both, but which one first? How about I show you some different colorways? Let's see. So here is another colorway of the Quilter's Canvas. Okay, here's another colorway. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? I love this design. So let me see. It's cut off a little bit. Let me see if I can fix that. Camera A. I have to unlock that. Let's see if I can move. Okay, there I go. Because now you can see the whole quilt. All right, there we go. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. All right, doing live editing so you can see all of it. So that's a variation. Okay, she says free motion. All right, I will show some of the free motion, and I'll come back to, I'll show you one more variation of Quilter's Canvas. One more variation. So here's another variation. Fun block. Fun block where you can have fun with scraps. You can have fun with different color palettes. I love it. So here we go. Here's some free motion. Let me do that. So this is one of the designs. It's based on the letter M, and you change the width of each part of the M based on a grid. You can do it freehand, freestyle, without a grid, or you can do it with a grid. I always recommend you start with the grid. That way you develop the movements for creating, whether you want very high peaks on the M or you want shallow peaks. It's up to you, right? But you need sometimes a guide to help your hands move. Remember in grade school when we had those lines to help us with uppercase and lowercase letters? It's the same principle. So this is another design based on the alphabet. Once you get going and get inspired by the letters in the alphabet, the designs begin to expand. And so this is another one of those designs. I have so many designs based on the alphabet. Yes, yes, I remember that. So this is a sit down long arm that I'm using. It's a Bernina Q20 sit down, but I love that I can stitch designs based on the alphabet edge to edge. This one is really fun. I haven't used it in a quilt yet, but I can imagine it in a baby quilt. What do you think? All these arrows going in multiple directions, continuous stitching. Remember I said we have to take those characters, but then we don't want to have to break thread, right? So we will have some backtracking in some designs, and others we'll have very little or no backtracking. Here's another one based on a box letter. A box letter. Oh, you like it, Cindy. Really, really fun. I love it. Let's see if I can get this up higher. Let me lock some things first before stuff starts to move. I'll bring this up a little bit higher. There we go. So who else has joined me? Hello, Judy. So glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Sonia's here. John is here. Barb is here. Hello. Karen is here. Welcome, welcome. So I love this design. This is another one that's very fun to stitch. And remember I was talking about how early on those stencils that we can transfer with the pounce pad and I couldn't follow them because I started using the alphabet drills. I was getting practice on how to move my hands in multiple directions. And as a result, I can now follow those stencils because I practice moving my hands using the alphabet drills. And this design below is called DNA Strand. DNA Strand started out with one vertical line of echoed S's. It's the letter S, echoed. Then I thought, okay, I can make the letter S. I can echo it without stopping, without breaking thread. Can I connect them? How can I connect multiples? So I figured that out, and then I said, okay, what's next? How can I do it with an all over pattern without breaking thread? And so that's what you see here. Ah, yes. When I'm on the Bernina sit down long arm, the Q20, I do use BSR, but I use BSR 2. I always use 2. Do you have a Bernina? Or do you use the sit down long arm or the frame? Which one are you using? I guess that's my question. Yeah. So I'll continue playing that video so you can see it. I just love this design. It's so fun. I have used it in a runner, which I'm going to show you live, but look at that. Okay, you have a Q20. Fantastic. It's a sit down, I assume. So this has a lot of backtracking which is a skill you definitely want to develop in free motion quilting. And backtracking, if you don't know, is stitching over previous stitching so you don't have to break thread. What's the difference between BSR 1 and 2? But Bernina stitch regulator number 1 is when the needle continuously moves even when you stop moving the fabric. It will continue to stitch in place. It's made for very fast stitching. BRS2, Bernina Stitch Regulator 2, when I take my foot off the pedal, I stop moving the fabric, the needle stops. And I want the needle to stop so that I can pause in between going in one direction or the other, or if I need a break. I don't want the needle to keep stitching in place, so I use BRS2. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, yes, it is a sit down. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to stop that for a moment. I'll come back to it. And I want to talk about machine setup. Sometimes people who are beginning quilters struggle with setting up their machine for free motion quilting. I know I remember when I first started, whew, it was hard. I did not know much about needles and thread. I didn't know if I could set up my machine for free motion and what were the settings. And of course, you go to your manual. That's the first place you want to go. But sometimes we also need for someone to hold our hand. And if you want to learn how to set up your home machine for free motion quilting, or you want to check and you need tips for tension, I have a new course to help you do that. It's a low entry course. It's just a few dollars, but it's going to give you tips on tension. We go through the complete cycle of setting up your machine, setting up your machine for free motion quilting, the tools, and then we go through a complete cycle of checking tension and then how you warm up. Now, if you want to go look at that and get a preview, you can go to, I'll put it in the chat, machinequilting.live. Got a little gnat here. quilting.live, machinequilting.live. So you want to go here. I'm going to put it up on the screen, machinequilting.live, and then just go under the tab at the top. It says education. Click online courses, education, and then you want online courses. Look for this image of the machine setup. When you click on this image on the website, it's going to take you to the description. Just scroll to the course curriculum and click on machine setup, and you'll see a button that says preview. In the preview, you're going to see a preview of the guide that comes with the course. It's a multi-page handout with a guide, and you'll be able to see all the different things that you will learn inside the course. If you want to learn how to set up your machine for free motion quilting success, I use my Bernette 79, which is what you see here. It's not a stitch regulated machine. So I show you how I manage consistent stitching in the beginning, how to do tension, the tools, my machine setup, everything. So go check it out if you want help. And it really doesn't matter what machine you have. You don't have to have a Bernette 79 because some of the things are very basic. Needles, thread, every machine has that. Dropping the feed dogs, and then going through the tension settings. All right, so I just wanted to share that for those of you who need help with that. So just go to machinequilting.live to see that. on Instagram. I'll put it in the chat. Okay. So now that that is out of the way, I think it's time for you to see my camera. This is live. So these are all based on, who can guess what letter? What letter do you think this was all stitched with? Who can guess? Can you see the letter? How I started off with what letter? Who can guess what letter? Right? Yes, you guessed it, the letter C. And what I love to teach and share is that we should learn every single design with 3 different sizes: small, medium, and then we can go very large. So in this class called Quilter's Canvas, this is one of the designs that you learn, and I give you a tutorial on how I stitch this and how I go from this curl with the letter C and slowly go into a spiral or swirl. From the letter C to a swirl, step by step. So I love that. And another reason why the setup, the machine setup class is so important is because the tension is good on both sides. I show you how to achieve good tension on the front and the back. Don't you want that? Front and back. So this is one design. There are 9 different designs. You want to see the next one? Here's the next one. This one is called, it's a swag. It's a swag. And basically it is a wide U. And of course, you know it can be any width we want. But because our hands already know how to stitch that, we come back and we do a little circle, another circle in the middle. But does it have to be a circle? No, it could be anything we want, right? It can, and that circle, what letter is it? It's really the letter O. And then we get the letter L in the middle. From an O to an L, and then we can loop those together, 2 of them. What do you think? Easy designs to practice. And I like to use solid fabric to practice so I can see what challenges I'm having. Am I having problems with eyelashes? You know how sometimes we can get eyelashes in the back? In that machine setup course, I show you how to adjust to remove eyelashes in the back. Okay, here's another design that you learn. Get this one. This is really fun. A medium size and then large scale. And what about this one? You saw the little video on this one. Lots of practice. And I like to use half of a fat quarter. The more we stitch one thing, the better we become at stitching it. Then we can also see where we're having problems. But if we only stitch a little bit here of one design, a little bit here of another design, we can't see the challenges that we're having when we need to be able to stitch the whole thing over a quilt. We don't want to find out those problems when we get to a quilt. We want to figure out that before we get to the real thing, right? Hello, Martha. So glad that you're here. Hello, Coffee is here. Who else is here? Helen, hello. So glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. Let me know if you have any additional questions as I share these live examples. And then here it is, the back. And maybe you notice it or not. This here, this thread is thicker than this one. You can see this one is a lighter appearance. This is a heavier appearance. That's because this one is 60 weight thread and this is 40 weight thread. The difference between, and this is the bobbin thread. The bobbin thread was 60 weight here, and the bobbin here was 40 weight. You can see the difference. I prefer for my bobbin to use 60 weight thread for the back of the quilt. Sometimes I'll use 40, but it just depends. Okay. This is 40 weight on the front. And remember the swag I showed earlier? This is the same swag, but this time, instead of putting a loop in between each of these, what did I do? I put some wishbone designs in between, which is basically just the letter L's, right? Letter L's going back and forth. Wishbone is just a loop, right? Loops, which are L's and E's. Let me go back. Let me find that swag for you again. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you like it. So this is where it starts. It starts with this first, right? And then before stitching the second half of this, before stitching the loop, I noticed that I had this nice swag shape, this shape. And I said, well, what if I fill that in? And so that's how I went from this to this. And so now, of course, whatever design you know is what you can fill in here. I just tried some wishbones or loops. It could be meander, it could be pebbles, it can be anything we want. But again, this started with the idea of stitching a letter from the alphabet, the letter U, a wide U. Right? My hands already know, my brain already knows I'm moving my hands in the direction of a U, or it could even, well, yeah, I think a U is better. What kind of block would I use this on? I would probably use this more in sashing or borders instead of a block. If I was to put it across a block, I would probably do it edge to edge. So I would see, depending upon the size of the block, how many of these I can fit within a block. So if it's a 12-inch block, I can fit 2 3-inch U's. I can fit, not 12 inches would be 6. So 12 inches across, divide that by 4. That means 4 would be each 3 inches, right? Can I smoothly stitch 3-inch U's? So I would try it on a practice sandwich first. I'd make a 12-inch square and see if I can stitch very smoothly from one spot to the next. And then I would figure out how far apart or how many of these I would need to stitch to get 2 of these in a 12-inch. Maybe I would need 3. I would need 3 of these. So I would plan that out. So that's a very good question, Barb. Very good question. Very good question. So that's the front. And that is the back. Okay. And another reason why I like to use the half back quarters is because of questions like yours, Bob, is that once we see something like this and we like it, we start to think, where can we put it? Where can we place it in the quilt? So then the next step is planning the placement of a design in a quilt. And that's why I encourage my students to learn every design in 3 different sizes: small, medium, and large, because then we can put it in a small sashing, we can put it in a larger border area, or we can put it in a block. And then eventually, if we scale up a design big enough, it can go edge to edge. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So here's the next one. And this one is so fun. And this would be fantastic design in a block, right? It can echo the shape of a block, which I love this one. And of course, the distance between these can vary, and then that would give a completely different look. And I teach how to stitch all of these designs in the quilter's canvas. So if you're just joining me, I like to introduce myself again. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter, and I am talking about the quilter's canvas quilt. What is the quilter's canvas quilt? The quilter's canvas quilt is this. It is this one. This is the first one, the first quilter's canvas quilt in which I stitched all the free motion quilting with the alphabet. With the alphabet. I don't have that quilt with me, but I also made a runner with the same block and some of the same patterns in this quilt, which I'm going to show you. I'm going to show that to you live here on my other camera. So here it is. This is the runner. You love the DNA design. Oh, thank you. Here it is. The DNA design is right here in this table runner. I did it on the diagonal. Sometimes just putting a design on a diagonal makes all the difference. Let me put that down there. Hopefully you can see that, the texture of that. And this time I'm using blending thread. Blending thread to hide any little mistakes I have, which there are some, right? Because no one's perfect. So the letter S is here, DNA strand. Glad you like it, Margaret. Thank you. And these are all the letter O of different sizes. Echoed O's, small O's, medium-sized O's, all in here in the patchwork piece. This block is called Quilter's Canvas, and this is the runner. And here's the next one, my canvas to create. Does this design look familiar? This is the same design you just saw a few moments ago. Where is it? It's right here. It's this design without the echo. Without the echo, this is right in here. And then I have my letter, what? M's. Let me see if I can find that one again. I think that was one of the first ones. Yeah, here it is. So this design right here is featured right inside here, which is the letter M. I think it looks like scales on a fish, so I call it scale. So I show you how to stitch that out. And then here are my letter C's, row by row by row. I have some more box letters right here, D's and B's, box letter D's and B's. And hopefully you can see this. This is the swag. I think that's coming out a little dark. Let me see if I can adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, hopefully that'll help. So here is the swag. Remember this design? Let me go back. So I think, Barb, you were asking about how to put designs inside a quilt or quilted project. This is the swag, and it's right here in this area, this strip. And then this one is called Diamonds on the Grid. This was also one of the patterns that is in the course that I stitched. I showed you earlier. Here it is. This is my practice piece. This is a actual table runner with the design in it. But it's all the letter V. It's echoed V's going row by row by row. And I show you how to do it step by step in the video. So all of this is Quilter's canvas. This is the table runner. So in the course, you can do either the runner, you can do a mini quilt, or you can do a full quilt. Let's look at the mini quilt again. So this is the mini quilt, Quilter's canvas. It's 12-inch blocks that are 3 across and 3 down, right? And here is a colorway of that for inspiration. You can use scrap fabric with some yardage. The black would be the yardage. Or you can use a different combination of colors that you prefer. A nice solid palette. Or here's another scrappy one, which I think is really fun. Fun, fun, fun. Okay. So if you're just joining me and you missed the free motion quilting, this is Quilter's canvas designs, all based on the alphabet. And this is a video actually from the course where I talk you through stitching out designs based on using letters in the alphabet and how to get different textures for your quilting designs with something you already know. You just need to learn the stitching path to create the designs, how to use cursive letters, how to use box letters, how to take the character shape of the letter U and M and exaggerate them to create new designs. And DNA strand it looks different. Oh, it does look a little different. Which one were you talking about? The swag, or which one looked different? Look different good, or look different not the same? Clarify that for me. Let me know. So ultimately, my desire is to help you to go from frustration to fabulous by increasing your skills with something you already know, that your hands know, but just need some help in creating specific free motion quilting designs. To build your confidence by having a good machine setup. Is your machine setup good for free motion quilting? Like Barb, you asked about the Q20. I think it was Barb, right? Let me go back. No, it wasn't Barb. It was DS Quilt. DS Quilt said 220. That machine setup class, I also give a demo on how I set up my Q20 sit down, how I check my tension and adjust my stitch length specifically for checking tension, how I do that, and my stitch length in the BSR too, how I adjust that specifically for checking tension. So Who was asking about that too? The difference between, Cindy asked about the difference between the BSR1 and BSR2. All right. DNA strand is all use. Oh, no. The DNA strand, let me show that to you. I'll go back to the camera. Good question. I'm going to have to adjust the camera brightness. Bring that down. Okay. Hopefully that's better. I'll go on this side. DNA, excuse me. DNA strand is based on the letter S, echoed S's. So this is it here. And so this is a more complicated version of it. The simpler version is this here. So this is the letter S and it's echoed. An echoed letter S. And again, stitching it small, medium, and large. Hopefully that makes sense to you now. It doesn't use use, it uses the letter S. Letter S. Good, the block letters. Yeah, the block letters can vary. This is the block letter with an echo. So think about the block letter. The block letter, let me get my little pointer here. This would be what? Our D, and this direction would be our block letter B. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You are welcome. Okay. So, what else was left that I did not show you? So before I went to the block letters with the echo, I did the simpler version. This is the simpler version, which you can see the block letter. This is a medium size, and now here it is on a smaller scale. And then bigger here. Bigger, bigger. So I show you how to stitch that out. And who can guess what letter this is? Who can guess what letter this is? Let's see who else has joined us on Instagram. Hello, Cindy. Hello. Who else is here? Scotty is here. 3122 Designs joined us. Hello. Kitty is here. Hello. Welcome, welcome. So this is another letter, right, that makes a beautiful edge to edge. This is one of my favorite ones. I call this groovy. Yeah, O's, 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 double O's. Here's that meander design we talked about earlier when we first learned free motion quilting. We do a lot of meandering. I guess it could be a Q as well. It sure could. See, I already got you thinking about letters. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so how else can we stitch that out? We can do it in a linear fashion, right? Linear fashion. And here it is, small, vertical, linear fashion. What is playing in the background? Let me do that. Okay, there we go. All right, ladies and gents, if there are any gentlemen here, that is the last one. Let me go here. Excuse me. So that is Quilter's canvas. Yes, great for borders. You're right. It is great for borders. So many options in free motion quilting, but sometimes we need help, right? We need help. And we need to find a way to go from practice to a quilt. And that's what Quilter's Canvas is all about. And this is Quilter's Canvas. It's a canvas to have some free motion quilting playtime. And you decide how much playtime you want. Do you want to do it with a runner, with a mini quilt like this one? This is 36 inches by 36. Or do you want a bigger project where you have a lot of canvas to practice your free motion quilting? So if you just joined me, I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. I help quilters go from frustration to fabulous by helping them learn how to stitch two techniques: free motion quilting and acrylic ruler quilting or template quilting. And one of my passions is to help you set up your machine for success. So if you are struggling with setting up your machine, your home machine for free motion quilting, go to my website, machinequilting.live. There, you just go to the top tab and you find out which class will work for you. For machine quilting setup, it's a low entry course, but it is packed full of tips for setting up your machine for success. You watch me set up my home machine, a Burnett 79 for free motion. I show you the foot, my thread, my needles. I go through a complete 30-minute tension test setup. I go through it step by step. I show you my personal process that I do every single time I go to set up my machine for free motion. I go through the exact same thing, matching my needle and thread combination, attaching my foot, my machine settings. I show you all the machine settings for my particular machine and talk about, even if your machine is different, what you can do if it's different than mine. Most machines are pretty much basically the same. They just have the settings in different places. I show you what tools I use. I show you what gloves I like, my quilting discs. I show you how I set up my machine speed. It's all in this low price introductory course. It's all about helping you set up your machine for success. And I want to help you do that. So go there, check it out. If you have friends who need that kind of help, just go to machinequilting.live, share it with them, look at the preview because it also includes a downloadable guide, a multi-page guide with all my steps, all of them. So go check it out. And if you are ready, you already know how to set up your machine, you have no problem with that, try Quilter's Canvas. Go to the education tab, look for courses, and you will see Quilter's Canvas and others, because there's ruler classes, there's other free motion quilting classes. But Quilter's Canvas, I made that specifically for my free motion alphabet students. So I've been mentioning the alphabet. Well, I have a course called the Alphabet Design Course. And my students, it's my most popular course. Many of them have gone through the course multiple times, and they were ready to start putting their techniques in a project. Now, some of them are already putting it in their quilts. When you go to machinequilting.live, you can look for student spotlight and you can see some of those students. Others wanted another project, so that's why I just released Quilter's Canvas, for them to have another opportunity to use the designs that they're learning in the alphabet design course, which has over 50 designs in it, and the alphabet drills and tutorials for all the tools I use, and a thread video and a machine setup video. It's an in-depth course that has all the things for free motion: alphabet drills, machine setup, demos on different tools I use, a whole video, 45-minute video on thread and needles. That's the in-depth free motion quilting course. Some just want to practice what they know. And Quilter's Canvas is that introduction to just getting started with free motion, with putting it in a quilt and learning a few more designs. So you get 9 more designs in the Quilter's Canvas. So I think that's it for tonight. I've gone on longer than I usually do. I'm almost here for an hour, but it was fun. It was fun to share with you some of the new things that are happening with me and Living Water Quilter. And by the way, before I sign off, I have to say this. I'm teaching at a quilt show, a quilt show in Pennsylvania. It's the Pennsylvania National Quilt Extravaganza. And I'm going to teach acrylic ruler quilting. Join me. I have 3 classes: how to stitch designs using acrylic templates or rulers with your home machine. I show you step by step how to get started, how to use it to make designs for every part of your quilt: the borders, the sashing, blocks, edge to edge. In each class, we only use 1 ruler and we make all of those designs for every part of your quilt. I show you step by step. So join me. Again, it's on the website, machinequilting.live. I love sharing. So before I sign off, any other questions? Any other questions? Let me know. Feel free to send me a email if you have any questions. You can do that via the website too, or you can drop me a comment on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. We are live on all 3. We are live on all 3. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. I'll see you next time. Oh, you're quite welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.